Hey, hello everyone.
Ishita, now we can start the session.
Yeah, okay. Um, a very good evening, everyone. Hackobiz 2.0 is back again. I welcome you all to day 8 of Hackobiz learning session. Here, you will get a chance to develop and showcase your ideas and provide them with new approaches to solve real world problems. I'm Ishita with my co host Prem. Hello, everyone. We are so excited to be here with all of you today. First of all, on behalf of the organizers, I would like to express our sincere gratitude for your participation in this online session. These sessions will cover all aspects from the brainstorming and ideation to team building and project management. This will be a valuable opportunity to learn from one of the industry's leading experts. Moving forward, I would like to hand over the session to Prem. Over to you, Prem.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be your anchor for this intensive and immersive session. I understand the value of having a solid foundation to succeed in this dynamic and fast paced industries. Today's session will provide you the foundational ideas about GPT and ChatGPT. As you all know, one of the most important aspects of a hackathon is collaboration and learning from the experts in the field. That's why I am pleased to announce that we have a very special guest joining us today, Mr. Navneet Anand, software engineer at Microsoft. His expertise on prompt engineering for ChatGPT, a state of the art language model, in this ongoing learning session arranged by the flagship hackathon at Paradox 2023. He will provide the insights and the practical tips for optimizing the performance of ChatGPT through prompt engineering, from designing effective prompts to the fine tuning the model for the specific use cases. This learning session is a must attend for anyone looking to understand the latest techniques and the best practice for optimizing language model like ChatGPT. I encourage you to come with a willingness to learn from the Navneet expertise. Please join me in welcoming Navneet Shah for this boot camps. Welcome, sir. Over to you.
Hey, hello, hello everyone. Thank you for the warm welcome, Prem.
Yeah.
I am still waiting for my PPT. Just give me a second. I think just got it. Let me share it.
Oh, sure. No issue.
Okay, let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see it. I think I am seeing a couple of thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, I think we can start. So, hey, hello everyone. Navneet here. Thank you all for having me. I will try to give you a good enough understanding of GPT and ChatGPT. First of all, I'm not a data scientist by any means. I'm a software engineer, and I will be imparting you not very deep data science knowledge, but mostly a practical approach on how you can use GPT models, or just ChatGPT in general. How you can use these to make your own projects better, and maybe this will give you a very good idea of how to ideate from scratch and use these technologies to make a fabulous project. So I would like to keep it interactive, and so if there's something you just stop me. I'll not bore with you with a lot of theoretical details, just a little bit to give you some pre-context, and then we'll have a short demo that I prepared for you. We'll go through the GPT APIs. We'll go through how to write code on top of it and how to use it to prepare your own hackathon project. Cool. So let us start. So first of all, my PPT is visible, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
awesome. Okay, awesome. So yeah, so first of all, let's start with what is it all about. So as you know, GPT or ChatGPT, It works on something called natural language processing. So natural language processing is nothing but a branch of AI that focuses on enabling machines to understand, interpret, and generate human like language. So ChatGPT uses a range of NLP techniques to understand and generate the text. So how it uses, I mean, I will give you just a very brief theory. So it uses something called tokenization. So it breaks up the sentence, whatever you write on ChatGPT, it will break that sentence or paragraph into individual word or tokens. It uses a tokenizer, it breaks the input tokens that it can individually process and analyze. So these processed tokens go into the system and they flow through a neural network, and ultimately it gives you some output. So a difference between something like ChatGPT or something like, let's say, a very generic translator that also works on the concept of tokenization is that ChatGPT uses something called attention. So with the use, what attention basically does is the output of every stage is available to the stage that is currently being processed. So let's say you're working on the seventh token that you have received, you will have all the pre-context. This will help you gain a better context of what the user has written, and will help you make a better decision. So that is something called attention. Uh, I'm not looking at the chat. I think some people want to join. I'm getting that message. So maybe Prem or someone you can take a look at that. Cool.
Yeah, sure, sure. You
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah. So next, yeah. So after tokenization, what happens is it takes out the text embeddings. It converts each token into high dimensional vector representation, which is basically called embedding. So it will break it down into a vector of some values, and finally, when all this is done, if you have fine tuned the GPT model, then it will have some previous examples to look at. Let's say it will match the input to a previously trained example that it has, or previously type of example. It will do a similarity comparison, and if it has the previous data to fall back on, then it can use it. Cool. So yeah, so that's basically how natural language processing works, and in case of ChatGPT, how it works. So the architecture is very simple on how you can use a GPT model. You can take a GPT 3.5 model that has probably been pre-trained. It has already been pre-trained on a huge amount of data. I don't know. I think GPT-4 is not yet available publicly, but if you had access to GPT-4, it would be the pretty much same. It will be trained on even more amounts of data, and you can use it same way. The next step is usually fine tuning. In fine tuning, you create training files. These are nothing but your JSON-L files that will contain in a CSV type format. It will contain some information like, hey, if this is the input, this should be your output, and things like that. So once the fine tuning is done, it can use those previously input data to uh, make a better response next time it gets something similar. It also uses something called adaptive computation. So basically, it uses adaptive computation to dynamically adjust the amount of resources that should be used. So you don't want to, I mean, one of the biggest challenge with using GPT or ChatGPT is that it uses huge amount of computation data. Like you might be noticing that Nvidia stock is going up the roof. So that one of the major reasons is that if AI or GPT starts getting popular, it will start, I mean, hogging on computation resources. So yeah, yeah, so adaptive computation helps you save that resource as much as you can. And going forward, I think GPT-4 right now, I think GPT only has English, but GPT-4 will have support for multiple languages. Any questions till now? I don't see any hands raised, but if you have some questions, please feel free to. Not sure if you have the option to unmute yourself, but feel free to let me know. I don't see anything on the chat. Cool. Okay. Okay, no questions. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, I already gave you the introduction to what LLMs are and how does it work. Okay, so next is what can you do to leverage its capabilities? That is, I think, one of the best. We guys are living in a world where you have, I think, we are the first, I mean, think first of the generation that will have access to AI technologies like GPT. I mean, however way you want to look at it, it's a game changer. It's a very big improvement on what we had traditionally, and I think in all practical purpose, it's a completely new paradigm that we are going to see. It's all very new right now. I will try to give you my expertise based on my understanding, but yeah, I think the sky is the limit. So what are some of the things you can do to leverage capabilities? So now the API is publicly available. Also, the plugins are also available. You can you can enable your own application. Let's say right now there were a lot of there are a lot of companies that were using their own models or whatever. Now they don't need to create those things. They can just focus on solving a problem, and they can use GPT to augment their implementation of it. So let's say you are Expedia, for example. And what is your expertise? Your expertise is creating an app where people can come and buy tickets or plan their holidays. So you can leverage GPT, you can plug it in where, and you don't need to worry about it. Just the user will come, they'll ask ChatGPT like, "Hey, I want to go, like say X place, and can you give me a good itinerary for it?" And it will come up with a list of things to do. Let's say you want to go to Greece, so you can just ask it, "Hey, I want to go to Greece for 10 days. Can you give me a detailed itinerary?" It'll give you all the details like, "Hey, go to Athens, cover these things, take a hotel somewhere here," and at the same time, it can link to some Expedia hotels and probably provide a link. So as you can see, your entire product is AI enabled, and that is the future that we are going for. And I would that is also my intent with this session, is that you guys can learn to leverage that and use it in your own projects. Okay, I think I have one question on the chat. Where does ChatGPT get the language data to learn the language in order to make use of tokenization? So I think a GPT or any model like that builds on top of already pre-trained. There is if you want to create your own model for language translation, for example, there are lot of training data. Just open Kaggle or you can just Google it. You'll find a lot of huge amounts of data that you can use to do that. In fact, I remember back in, I think, 2017 or something, when at Microsoft we were doing something very similar for Cortana, and it was a huge effort that, I mean, we all employees also contributed along with people from outside. They came in and they helped create those data sets by translating certain sentences, and that became the basis of the training data that Cortana used to understand different languages. Bard versus ChatGPT, I can't really comment on what Bard is doing, but because it's all, I mean, I've not really gone through. I don't think a lot of information is also public right now, and I've not really got a chance to use it. But being a large language model, its capabilities will be fairly similar. It will be able to make a sense of what you're seeing and give an output in a more I mean, human understandable form. Cool. Okay, one last thing I wanted to talk to you about, not just future developments. I mean, as we see things move forward, it can have even better language understanding, more advanced natural language understanding. It can understand things like that are very prone to human language. Things like sarcasm, or things where we talk about certain things, and just on a very few examples, humans are able to understand uh, broken down version of the language, or what you call slangs. Basically, you say some things very short in a very short manner, and people generally understand if they're aware of the context. So these things right now are not easy for a model to do, but I think going forward, uh, more what you call character of a language, dialects of a language, these things will become more common for a language model to understand. I think with future, even more diverse training data will come, and because right now I think it will be trained on some very simple examples, and we need more diverse training, like, so that it doesn't get a bias on a certain way that English is spoken, and it understands different forms as well. And yeah, I mean, obviously, real time learning is one thing. Like, let's say right now, thing with GPT is that it doesn't do real-time learning. You have to enable it in your own solution if you want to do that. But I mean that you can do by creating the JSON files and feeding it back to the model for fine tuning. But real-time learning is one thing I think that going forward all LLMs will do. Basically, that will mean that as more people talk to these LLMs, that conversation will become the context of the model learning to get even better. So those are some future developments that can be there. And lastly, before I move to the demo and tell you how to use it, I would like to talk about limitations as well. So right now, it might seem to you that GPT and ChatGPT can do wonders, but there are some limitations. So one of the first limitation is the bias. So can only be it can only work on the language it is trained on. It is and which is often sourced from the internet. It can often contain biased language and perspectives, and this can ultimately lead the model to generating biased responses. There are also a lot of fail safes to make sure that GPT's responses are not threatening or rude in any way. There are a lot of filters that people add, and that ethical question of AI is another different thing altogether. You don't want AI to be used for bad, and you want to have those filters to make sure that those things are being addressed. I think with this, we will probably in the future see some ethical AI committee coming up in governments and governments trying to monitor these things even better. And yeah, so the next thing is basically lack of common sense, which we also sometimes called hallucination. So, I mean, let's say you ask, I mean, you might have seen this example in a lot of places. You say GPT, hey, GPT, 2 plus 2 is equal to 5. The next time you ask, hey, what is 2 plus 2? It might say 5. Or let's say you ask something and it gives an answer, but you force it, hey, no, I think this is you're wrong. This is the correct answer. And it will be like, hey, apologies, sorry, I think, yeah, you are right. Basically, it is not able to differentiate between what is fact and what is fiction. And that is why it suffers from hallucination, which is basically not, it cannot validate if its responses are correct. It can only create human understandable responses, but it is not able to create correct responses. So that issue will be addressed better if there are more training and test data that can filter those biases out. Lastly, it's as I said, it's very resource intensive. Like it requires a huge amounts of computing and resource data, and this is a very resource heavy technology. And we should only use it if it's important, and you should do that COGS analysis. COGS is basically cost of goods sold. So the cost analysis should be done before you use something like GPT, and only use it if you're certain that the advantage of using it is worth the cost. I see a question on the chat that GPT-4 is capable of. GPT-4 is the successor to GPT 3.5 or GPT 3, and it can do a lot more things. It can generate images, it can generate your documents, presentations, etc. It can also take inputs not just in the form of text, but other things like images, documents, whatever. And I mean, I think Chat GPT comes with a token limit of 4,000, basically 4,000 tokens. Tokens are nothing but words or characters, and GPT-4 comes, I think, comes at least with 32,000 token limitations, which is a huge 8 times increase. So you can understand it is much more powerful. Uh, I had kept the last slide before we jump into the demo. Any questions? Cool. I think I'll take that as a no.
Sir, look in chat section, people are asking some questions.
Those questions I've already, I think, last question was GPT-4 is capable of. I have already answered these questions. Okay,
Okay.
one more question I got is learning coding still relevant in the future with the availability of advanced AI language models such as ChatGPT? So the fundamentals will always be important. You can't just expect, as I said, it suffers from hallucination and it can write good enough code, but until and unless you understand what it is writing, you will never be able to use it properly. Uh, I mean, the important thing here is to understand that these AI models are here to make your productivity better. It's not here to remove humans, but it's here to augment humans. Like earlier, if you were able to write maybe let's say 1,000 or 500,000 lines of code in a day, you can going forward maybe write 5,000. So uh, that's the kind of productivity boost these technologies are going to give you. And I mean, right now at least, they are not going to take away your jobs or take away your importance. Does ChatGPT REPA? I don't understand your question. How is it going to affect data science or data analytics? I mean, like any field, if you are working as a data scientist and you're working, I mean, there's more to the world than just large language models. But yeah, if you're working on large language models, you can be expected to maybe work on a very similar thing, and create your own maybe GPT-5 or whatever, and in- push those capabilities even further. I think one of the biggest limitations with not just ChatGPT, with all AI technology, is that it can't push the boundary. It can only repeat on what has already happened. It cannot go beyond. If it's able to write the code, it is able to write code that has already been written in a more different way. I mean, looking at different things, it is able to write. But if it has, if you ask it to write something completely new, which has never been written, it cannot do that. So that is one biggest limitations, at least for AI, that I see right now. Cool. With that, let's move to the demo. Let me share my screen. Okay, I does ChatGPT repeat like if I asked it to create a story and with the same keyword, someone asks the same thing. I mean, it's very difficult that both of you will get a completely same response. It might be slightly different. I mean, it might be similar to some extent, but it might be slightly different for someone versus slightly different for someone else, unless you ask very specific questions. Hey, what is the color of the sun? I mean, something very, if it's a factoid based question, then probably you'll get the same answer. But for creative answers, it is going to be different. There is something called temperature that basically determines how imaginative the model answers will be. And if those, if the temperature is higher, it will, I mean, be more creative, and the responses can be very varied. Can ChatGPT be integrated with other systems? Yes, it can be. I'm just going to show you a small example of how you can use it. Cool. I think we are at the 6:30. Let us go to the demo, and after that, we'll take some more questions. Let me share my screen. One second. Let me know if my screen is visible. Cool.
Yeah,
I think it's visible.
yeah, it's big.
Okay. Uh, okay. One second. Let me close this. Just one second. Let me log into my desktop. Let me share my screen once again. Screen one. Yeah. Can you see my screen again?
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's visible.
Awesome. So, yeah, first of all, let us look at the AI that, I mean, the API that OpenAI already provides. So there are some, I mean, there are quite a few, depending on different models. There's also create image, create files, whatever. uh, engines that are there. So you can use them. I mean, for example, let's see. So you can get a list of, let's say, what models OpenAI supports. Let me just do that. So you can see it's just Babbage, Da Vinci. Da Vinci is very good if you want to, do text completions and all that. There are some that do code search and all that. Okay, before we get into these APIs, let me show you the OpenAI official documentation that will help you understand what I'm trying to talk about. So if you go to platform.openai.com, you can go to API references. You can also actually also read the documentation first and go to API references. So this will give you the details of all the APIs that OpenAI provides, and also give you a very good understanding of how to create requests for those AI APIs, and also what different parameters mean. For example, let's go to chat. So the request body is going to contain. I am hoping that everyone is already familiar with what is an API. I'm not going into those very low level details. So let's say you have to create a chat completion. The API is api.openai.com/v1/chat/completions. The body will contain the model. So basically, for us, if you're going to use GPT, the model will be GPT 3.5 Turbo. The message is the list of messages that we're going to send. I'll tell you why it's messages and not just one message in a second. Temperature is basically it can be between 0 and 2. Higher values will make the output more random. That's what I was talking about. If the temperature is higher, your whatever you write will be more imaginative. Top P is called nucleus sampling, not really important. N is how many chat completion choices. So basically, if you N is more than one, it create more outputs and you can choose. Max tokens is how many tokens. I mean, let's say people you want to limit the amount of usage, computation usage you are doing in your application. For example, you have a very simple app. You don't want people to create huge responses because that will affect your computation cost. You can limit that using max tokens. Similarly, there are a lot of different things. I mean, uh, that are there. I will just focus on the simpler ones. There are more model like image generation is there. Uh, you can use that to create images, create image edit, whatever sort of things. Audio is there. How do you can use it to convert speech to text? Basically by you can use it to create a app that creates auto transcriptions, etc. etc. As you can see, it does a lot of things. We'll be just focusing on a very simple example of chat. Let me again open the API list that was here. I've created this chat API that is here. It's a post request because it contains a body. So the body will just have which model we want it to hit. So we want it to hit the GPT 3.5 model, and I've set a very simple. So the role uses user, which means that this message is from the user, which is you. The content is nothing but the prompt that you're asking GPT. Here it's like say Python code to add two numbers, and the header will the parameter will contain your. So this one doesn't need it maybe. Okay, anyway, so here you have the body and all that. Let me just click on send. So as you can see, this is the example response that you'll get from ChatGPT. So because the choice was just one, there will be just one. So inside the choice, you will have a message. Inside the message, the role will be assistant because this message came from ChatGPT. And the content is, let's say, hey, to add two numbers, you can use the following code, and it will come with the code. So that is a sample API request that you can use. So I've gone ahead and created a .NET Core based project here. So I've got a simple controller that takes a request from the user. Let's say get GPT request. So my focus with this very simple project that I've created for you is to create a log analyzer. Basically, as a software engineer, I get a lot of logs, error logs to look at, and it's not always possible for me to just look at the log and trying to make a sense of it. So I'll just copy those logs, send it to ChatGPT for analysis, and ChatGPT will extract useful information from the logs and tell us what is the error with the system. And okay, the font is too small. Let me make it bigger. Is it better now, Ame? Okay. So yeah, so basically, I want to send the logs to the system, and I want the information that hey, we looked at the logs, and these are the some of the steps that you should do. So this is a service layer that I have added. So here you will, this is the request that will send. You can just, these are very simple headers that I've added. I've created the request over here and then sent it to our client, HTTP client I've created, and send the request. This is a response, and I've just used the response to create it. So how you can create a request is where it gets interesting. So if you want, I mean, if you don't want to do fine tuning and all, because I know uh, fine tuning and all can be a little challenging creating those JSON files for, and it's, I mean, honestly, for a project that you guys will create more often than not, the few short examples that I'm going to talk about is more than enough. So how you can do a few short learning is by creating the request like this. So I have created a request here. It is very simple. I've set some temperature, some values like this. I have given the user, I mean, given ChatGPT some samples to work on. So based on these samples, it will be able to understand what he should do about it and how he should create the responses. So I've written, hey, you're a, first of all, system means the pre-context, like what are you? I'm telling ChatGPT that you are a software engineer. You look at these system logs and try to understand what is the issue with the system. Here in message, I have written, hey, example. So user, let's say user wrote, help me solve this issue with some log, and a sample assistant response said, it seems your application encountering an error while trying to connect to MySQL database. So in this way, I've given just two examples. You can give more, maybe four or five, whatever. And lastly, I'm sending the user request to ChatGPT, and it will come up with the response. So let us try to use it. I've created a very simple front end for this as well using React. Let me open that. So it opens up like this. Hello, I'm log analyzer. I can summarize any timeline event. Please send me events to summarize. Let me share. I'll just copy some log that I've kept as a sample. So here I'll just paste the log. Because I've already done pre-context analysis in my service layer, we don't need to write anything at what is this all about. And then let's just press enter. So it will just send this request to GPT right now. As you can see, we have got the response. This error message indicating that your server encountered something. What you can do to fix this, check the network connectivity, check whether the client is sending data, blah, 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 blah. So as you can see, this is how I have integrated into my project. You can have this same very simple integration with your own project. You can plug it in. I mean, if you look at the front end code here, I've just done a fetch to my service layer with the whatever the request was there from the user, and I've sent it, got the data, and I'm just pushing it. Very simple project, very useful. I mean, I can just tell it as a hackathon project that hey, I am created a project to help software engineers analyze log data. You can create much more better. I mean, even more use cases. Sky is the limit. Just your imagination is limiting you. First of all, just make sure you go to OpenAI, create your own account, go to platform.openai.com that I was just talking about. Let me open that page again. Uh, so you can just read the documentation here. It will give you a very good overview. Go to the API references to try and understand what APIs to work with. Uh, open Postman and create a sample request, or if you don't like Postman, whatever else you like. If you have a MacBook, you can also just do curl requests and use it. And it also has a lot of examples. So you can see grammar correction, SQL translation, classification, etc., etc., etc. I mean, these are all things that ChatGPT already provides, and the playground is also there, where you can, let's say, okay, ChatGPT is here. Where this playground, I think, doesn't contain GPT yet. Okay, it's GPT-3, but it doesn't contain GPT 3.5 Turbo. Anyway, but that's fine. You can use it from the API reference, and you can use other models as well. You don't need to limit yourself to GPT. You can use an image model and create images, audio, whatever. So yeah, so that was it from the demo. I think I have one question. Is it ethical to use ChatGPT for your job though? So one thing you have to understand that the OpenAI version of ChatGPT. Okay, I have one more very similar question. How does ChatGPT ensure user privacy and security? So let me go back to the presentation over then. Okay, uh, so when you send it to the OpenAI chatgpt.openai.com, which is the free one that you see, even though OpenAI promises that the model training has stopped and probably it will not, that your response will not be used to train the model, but there is no I mean, at least the free tier doesn't have any kind of promise that it does to the user that hey, we will not use your data for any purposes unless and until you have signed a user I mean, what is it called, EULA agreement, that the data is not going to be used. You can't be sure, so they can use your data and do whatever you want. So it's imperative that you don't send information that is private and information that you don't want others to use, especially sensitive information. And the same thing goes for, is it ethical to use ChatGPT for your job? It is not ethical if you're asking it some very questions that are specific to your job or leaking data that is very secret to your company. If you're using the OpenAI's free ChatGPT for that purpose, it is not right. If you want to use GPT for that, though, let me share something. So there is something called Azure OpenAI Services. Let me share my screen once again. So yeah, so you can use this Azure OpenAI service. And the Azure OpenAI service, I mean, if you have some credits in the account, you can use the your Azure credits, or I think it also gives some amount of free usage as well. It also has GPT-4, by the way. So you can use this for your use case. I mean, if you're using it for your company or if you don't want the data to go anywhere, because when you're using Azure OpenAI, the information level leaves your tenant, and it is sealed within that. And you also sign a EULA where Microsoft will clearly state that it is not going to use your information for any purposes. So yeah, so this is one option. But yeah, this is actually, I think, very costly if I'm not wrong. So basically per 1,000 tokens, the GPT 3.5, I think it's right now it's NA, but let's say DaVinci, let's say you try to use code DaVinci, which is a code completion model. It is trained on GPT-3 to complete your code. So it's 10 cents for 1,000 token. In one request, typically you would almost exhaust your 3,000 to 4,000 tokens, which is like $1 per request. So it's not really that, I mean, it's very costly. Image models are even much costlier. DALI is like $2 for 100 images, which is hugely costly. I think chat there. GPT 3.5. Yeah, I think it's not here yet, but yeah, it's also much, much costlier. Oh, I think it's in use years. So yeah, it's 0.002 for 1,000 tokens, and not cheap at all when you start looking at scale. But yeah, this is one option. Any other questions? Basically, I don't have any more content to share because I wanted it to be more interactive and I wanted to answer your questions better, because that's how you will learn. Okay, so if AI can create API and write code and analyze data, are AI and ML the only feasible IT fields in the future? Not really. I mean, so you have to first understand that it's not about what field is important right now. I mean, maybe 20 years before, there was a very clear demarcation of what fields are what. But going forward, I think everything is going to merge. If you're an engineer, your job is to solve problems. It doesn't mean you need to be just like say, hey, I am a ML engineer, or hey, I am a some X engineer, whatever. So going forward, you are going to use everything that is there to make your job complete your job. So if AI is available, great. You can use AI to get your job done. You can create AI to create solutions. So an engineer is someone who takes a problem and solves it. It doesn't matter how he solves it. He just should be able to solve it. And if AI is there, he should use it to as much as possible. And if he thinks that AI is an overkill here, he can use better ways to do it. So that is where we are. There is nothing called this is a feasible field or that is a feasible field. If you are an engineer, you are here to solve problems and you need to solve them uh, in the best way possible. There are some best courses to start with ML. I am a machine learning beginner. Also, as I said, I'm not a data scientist by any means. So all these information that I shared with you are just something that I have gone through from my curious. I got through because I was curious about it. But I will share some things that I read for. I mean, specific to GPT-3 before I was preparing the session for you. Maybe that can be helpful. So I think the best way to learn all of this is nothing but looking at the white paper. So as you know, OpenAI does write papers for everything. You can just do a Google search and it will give you, a list of things to look at. So let me maybe find the GPT-3 paper that I read. Yes, this. See if I can paste it here. So these are some things that I had read. Okay, the links didn't get pasted here, but yeah, I mean, let me see if I can copy the links. Okay, I think I need to copy them one by one. So yeah, this is the white paper that I was talking about. These are, I think, some background information for sequence models and how they work. This is good information about transformers and how transformers work. And this is a good of, I think, again, more pre-context of how RNNs, recurrent neural networks work. Not really necessary for ChatGPT, but yeah. So I typically, whenever I have to learn something, I try to go to the white paper and read a little bit of the white paper and then try to find information that is written on the white paper that I don't understand. I think that should be a great way to start for all of you. Cool. Any other questions? I hope the session was useful for you. I mean, were you able to learn something? Are you understanding what you need to do to, go ahead? I think it was because it's a hackathon. I wanted to be a very focused on a practical approach on how you can quickly tomorrow go ahead and use it. Not just, hey, I learned a lot of theory about ChatGPT, but you don't really know how to use it, right? That's not what I wanted. How to use Discord for education purposes? I don't use Discord for education purpose, so I'm not really sure how to answer that. So I think we are just 10 minutes left. If there are any last questions, let me know, or we can just call it a session.
I think question have ended.
Uh,
Yeah.
is there any question?
Awesome.
Not,
So yeah, thank you
no,
for
not
having
yet.
me, Prem, Shivam, and I think there was one more.
Wait a minute. Let me start. Prem.
Awesome. Thank you. I hope this was useful. And I mean, if you guys, I mean, give these guys my LinkedIn. You can always connect to me. And I'm really interested to know what projects you guys build. And it will be
Yeah,
really
we'll update you surely. sir.
Yeah, if you do something with ChatGPT and if you use something that I told you, I really want to know what you worked on, how it turned out, if it was useful. Yeah, so
Yeah,
please just let
sure,
me know.
sure, sure. Thank
Yeah,
you
yeah.
so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yes.
It was really a great question.